All right, time for another edition of Draft Class. And joining today from NBA Draft Junkies, James Barlowe. James, how are you?
I'm good, man. I can't complain. How are you?
We got some lottery lessons we got to get to, man, because BYU, huge comeback against Clemson at Madison Square Garden. Our producer, Emmy, was in the game. She is a BYU alum. Saw
Okay.
AJ Dybantsa lead a big-time comeback against Clemson. They trailed by 22 points in the game. He outscores Clemson himself in the second half of the game. What did you see from Dybantsa in this performance against Clemson, James?
He is such a better playmaker than probably what he was advertised as coming out of high school, coming off the AAU circuit. And he showed you exactly what I think can become at the next level, especially like initiating the offense in high pick and roll. I want to say in the first half, he got off to a slow start, kind of struggled to create space, create separation. And then they lifted him up from the mid post, and then he started to see the floor. And then that's when he got downhill. And then the second half, he just had a monster game. He controls the pace of the game, almost like it's not LeBron level, but you can see that he's very comfortable, like dictating. If you send somebody to double team him, he's gonna find the open guys. But he threw a number of left hand passes last night, and like the numbers were crazy. He outscored, out assisted Clemson by himself in the second half. Like that's the tape that they're gonna show on draft night when he selected one, two, or three. But he was amazing. I think he's growing as a playmaker. And if he gets to that spot on the low block and he's going to get to the middle, he's going to elevate or he's going to draw a foul. And then if you double, he can find guys. Like he has college basketball figured out already, and he's not even 19 yet.
Not even 19 yet. And I feel like the handle is still loose sometimes. Like the handle isn't what it will be in 3 years, 4 years, 5 years when he's nearing the prime of his career. Like he's going to get better in those categories. And like the offhand passing, as you mentioned, a right-handed player in the final 5 minutes of the game, he found Keita, BYU's big for, two lob dunks, two lob passes that he made. Then he had that lefty dish off of the isolation on the right side of the floor for a dunk for him. And dude, I just feel like with AJ Dybantsa, he's been dominant scoring so far out of pick and roll. He's 19 out of 34 in pick and rolls, getting to the rim at will. He's dominating from the post, 12 of 20 so far in post ups. And, you can kind of, ISOs and post ups can belong in the same category. But in these tough categories, pick and roll and ISOs, post ups, the dude looks very, very comfortable creating in the half court. And what's the hardest thing? Like you can find guys that dominate in transition in the open floor in college, but Dybantsa's doing it in the half court against a set defense in tough games, oftentimes down. Sometimes, of course, I saw him against UConn in their almost comeback against the Huskies in the TD Garden in Boston. He completed the comeback against Clemson. He's doing it facing adversity as well. And so I think with AJ, I don't know if he'll end up number one. I don't know. I want him to be number one because he's from Brockton, Massachusetts. I'm born and raised in Brockton, Massachusetts. I would love for him to be my number one. I really would, James. I want him to end up my number one. I don't know if he will. But I think he's checking a lot of those boxes so far this year. Is there anything we talked last time? You mentioned his 3-point rate. Do you still look at that as a bit of a concern, or are you kind of looking past it at this point, considering some of the other things you're seeing him doing out there?
I'm going to look past it because I feel like he has college basketball figured out. And even while he's not taking a ton of threes, he's not settling for them. And he's also not, to me, passing as many open threes up as he was early on. Take them and make them. Even in that game against Clemson, I think it was offensive rebound. Keita grabbed it and he kicked to AJ in the corner and he shot the open three. Like just do that. I think eventually he'll grow into taking more threes at the next level. But I guess you could say, or maybe some of my cohorts in the draft community, their concerns are maybe his inability to block shots and get steals. We see he's 6'9", he's got the wingspan, he's got the athleticism, he's got the motor. You would think, or you would like to think, that he should be a better person at creating defensive plays, and he just hasn't done that yet. But as I dig into the numbers and I look deeper into it, like Jaylen Brown, who, you're a Celtics fan, is what we call a very good defender at the position. We saw what he did to Luka in the finals a couple years ago. Like he had similar a similar block rate, a similar steal rate as AJ Dybantsa in college. So it's just going to come down to will AJ be able to lock in, even though he's not really blocking shots, creating steals. But he's just such a good playmaker. And again, regardless of the 3-point shots not being attempted as maybe as much as we want them to, like his ability to adjust at halftime. I believe this is the third time where he just had a monster second half. We saw it against Connecticut. I believe he did against Dayton or was it Miami, where he just figured it out. And then obviously this game here, where he put Clemson away by himself. Like I like to judge my draft picks how they handle adversity, and like he's getting A's across the board when it comes to adversity.
When you talk about the block and steal rate being so
Mm-hmm.
low for AJ Dybantsa, I think a little bit as like some awareness. Sometimes I feel like he's a bit lost off ball.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's anything else? Like what do you put into that? Because I feel like effort isn't a question with him. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's an intensity that he brings to the floor. Why is that rate so low in your opinion?
I think it sometimes he can get lost off the ball, but it's definitely not effort because that same effort that I would like to see him put forward to blocking shots or getting steals, he grabbed 2 offensive rebounds in I believe the second half to kind of start that run to get them back into the game. And even before that, I want to say in the first half, he poked the ball. He didn't get credit for a steal, but he did force a turnover. It's just a matter of locking in more, doing it more often. And I don't necessarily think that that's going to be something that like drops him for his draft range. I mean, he's going to go 1, 2, or 3. We can almost assume that to be guaranteed. I don't necessarily think that's going to deter a team. It's just something that you would want to see more from him because he has all the physical tools to be a very good help side defender. And I mean, we've talked about it before. Like I think he's even though the numbers don't say it right now, he's at his best in transition. But he's going to get transition opportunities if he plays the passing lanes. So like that's just something that I want to see from him. Maybe it's nitpicking, but again, we're talking about a draft that has potentially 3 number 1 picks. So you got to have to dig past the surface with these guys.
One of those other number one picks made his return over the weekend. Darryn Peterson returned to Kansas from a hamstring injury. He had 17 points on 6 of 14 against Missouri. What did you see from Peterson in that game, James?
It's good to see him back. I don't know if he's 100%. And
Doesn't
when you
look
look
like
at
it.
it,
Didn't look like
it
it is
doesn't
full
look like it.
burst.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it
you
doesn't
know
look like
what?
that.
I look at the numbers and I want to say he only has like 5 rim attempts in the half court. Now again, it's only been 3 games, and I think he still has like 3 dunks still. So, but I don't know if he's not healthy or if he's not 100%. I know or it seems like for sure he doesn't trust the burst, and maybe that's why he's settling for some of these threes that he's taking. I have him at a 50% 3-point rate, and coming out of high school at Prolific Prep, he was at 36%, which means 36% of all his attempts were
Mm.
threes. On Adidas, it was 24%. So for now, half his shots are threes. And I don't know if that's intentional. I know he wanted to add to it to I guess clean up some of his efficiency, but he's taking a lot of threes but at the same time it's hard to argue with the process because he's making them and he's averaging something like a point per minute. And we haven't seen like him put together 2 great halves yet. So it's like he's averaging 20. He had 24, I believe, in the scrimmage against Louisville, and he didn't play the whole second half. Even this game against Missouri, like they set him down, he was getting treatment. Like I want to see him play a 38-minute game and see what it looks like because he's scoring so easily now, and he really hasn't put together, a 3-level scoring game yet.
I'm seeing right now on Synergy, he has 8 attempts at the rim out of 39 shots so far.
That's
8 out of
crazy.
39 at the rim. It's pretty low. Obviously, like you said, it's only 3 games, but that is extremely low for Peterson. So, in Kansas's upcoming games, I would assume that is the number one thing you're going to be watching for. They have NC State on Saturday, and then a couple of other games on Tuesday, and then the following Monday before Christmas. So only 3 more games ahead of Christmas. So actually, that is a good thing schedule wise
Mm-hmm.
for Peterson and his recovery as well. Can ramp up a little bit before the schedule gets a bit busier in January with only 3 games ahead of Christmas right now. But ultimately, I do think that's a good point with the at rim rate. It is funny, like with these 3 potential number 1 picks, Peterson, Boozer at Duke, and then Dybantsa at BYU, they're all very different. And
Yes.
I really don't think the number 1 pick is going to be clear until May. with the lottery determining who actually has the number one pick, because it's, beauty is in the eye of the beholder this year. Someone's number one pick is not going to be another team's number one pick. They'll be their number three, or maybe they're four, but likely just the number three. We'll see with Boozer. But one of the guys that I think people, thought has a chance to break through was Nate Ament at Tennessee. And that hasn't happened for him so far this season, James. Can you discuss what the appeal was in Nate Ament and what's behind his struggle so far this season?
So going into this draft, I want to say I had Nate Ament at probably 6 or 7. He struggled at the rim on the Adidas shoe circuit, but he did shoot the ball pretty well. He's a late bloomer. I know 24/7 ranked him as their number one prospect, and I don't know if I don't. It looks like a mental thing to me, at least today at this point, because he's passing up open jump shots, and for someone who was billed to be a shooter, first possession of the game, the last game against, I believe, um, Illinois, he passed up a corner three, drove and kicked it out. He's passing up threes over feet sweep, and then he airballed a three long in the corner, and that is alarming to me, because if you're struggling with your confidence in December, November, what does it look like when we get in SEC play? When we know the SEC is going to be extremely tough. Coming out of high school, coming out of the AAU circuit, I wasn't necessarily buying him as a play starter, and it looks like that's what Tennessee is trying to use him as. I know they had the Kevin Durant comparisons, and it's not fair to Nate, Ament, or even any of these kids. There's some coming up in these up and coming draft classes. The tall, skinny kid is not going to be Kevin Durant. I thought Ament was going to be a better shooter than is right now off the catch. That's the most alarming thing to me. His struggles at the rim, I kind of expected it, even with the added weight. He just doesn't have like a great first step, and his handle is just good. I think he should be an outside in guy, meaning his rim attempts, rim pressure is going to come off of him making shots. But if he's not making shots, then how's he, going to score? I believe his last 4 games, and they're playing against like top 100 competition, he's averaging like 12 and 6, and this on like 25%, 20% from three splits. And really, the saving grace for Nate Ament, and he's been productive, is that he's getting to the foul line at an extremely high rate, but he's not making shots. He just doesn't look confident, and I hope he's able to turn it around. But right now, he just looks like he's out there, and I don't know if it's the draft or whatever it is. He's just not playing like how I thought he could play. Didn't think he was going to be able to crack the top 5, but I just didn't see a guy who was not making jump shots.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think with him, you're right. There's a mental component to it for him, but that is, I think, in part related to the physical component with him
Mhm.
as well. You mentioned the at rim struggles that he's had throughout, different levels of basketball so far this season for Tennessee. He's 11 for 30 at the rim in the half court, according to Synergy, and at times it just looks like he lacks the quickness to create any space at all, any separation. And then other times, if he is able to create a little sliver of room, he's just unable to break off that with any type of strength. He lacks strength. He lacks quickness. He lacks verticality and really tight spaces with other shot blockers and contesters in the paint. And it's really affecting him negatively. And if he's not making shots, as you said, well, he's not scoring at the rim. You're just drawing fouls and getting at the free throw line. There's no guarantee that that's going to continue manifesting for him once the schedule gets tougher during SEC play. Like you said, they have a lot of tough games coming up, man. I mean, just in the next few weeks, they have that Louisville, Arkansas, Florida, Alabama over this next month. Until mid late January. So a lot of tough ones on the schedule for Tennessee, and he is not looking like a top 5 pick potentially so far this year, unfortunately. But other guys, as we've talked about on the pod and we'll talk about in the weeks to come, who knows? We'll see. Who do you have right now, James? Last thing in your 4 and 5 spots on your board. It's kind of rounding out that top 5.
I'm hovering in between Caleb Wilson and Michael Brown Jr. as 4 and 5. Caleb Wilson had some touch issues early on, but he was making everything the last game. But I'm still buying his motor, his athleticism, his defensive chops that he does have. I know Michael Brown Jr. is struggling from the field, but I do think he's the best passer in his draft. And I do think at 6'5", he provides what the way that the NBA is trending for the point guard position. They're trying to get bigger. And at 6'5", I think once he figures out when to shoot, when to pass, and what kind of shots are good for me to take, I think he'll end up being like the best point guard from this class. But also, you got guys like Kingston Flemings who's just rising to me up the draft boards. He's somebody that I had to. I mean, I just couldn't deny it anymore. I had to put him in my top 10. Koa Pete, we know, has been very productive. Me and you, we talked about Cameron Carr in the past. So, but I think 4 and 5 right now. I guess if you would do a tier system, it's Caleb Wilson and then Michael Brown, and then there's guys who are like on their heels for that 5th spot in the draft, at least in my opinion.
I mean, the Kingston Flemings rise is pretty remarkable. I remember a couple of weeks back, I had Sam Vicini on the podcast, and we had Kingston Flemings as a weekly mover. And I think at that point, if I remember, I might be paraphrasing incorrectly, but if I remember correctly, Sam had said like he was kind of off his radar as a prospect for this year. And then he had his big, right? Yeah, exactly. And then he had his big performance against Auburn. And it's ever since then, it's been big performance after big performance after big performance, including against Tennessee, even though they lost that game with his 25-point on 10 of 15 games. So continues to rise. The board is ever changing. It's still very, very early in the year as we now enter December. James, I appreciate you joining me today, man.